Shake, 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 Sinora, shake it all the time.
When you add a shake of Frank's Red Hot, you open a world of better. A world where wings bring out the flavor of game day any day, and where buffalo chicken dip takes any party up a notch. It's the perfect blend of flavor and heat. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
Guys, what's good? Welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all. Stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah, and we are continuing with, this month is actually important. It was brought to my attention that it was, Suicide Prevention Month. And I think that's such a weighted topic. And, it's layers to it, right? And, this podcast is for mental health, obviously, and taking care of yourself in the practical ways. But, I just want to say, if you're out there and things are getting a little thick and you just want to walk out of the room that is the world, see if you can get some help first, right? And then continue with September, September self-care September. We're gonna take a selfie. We're gonna take a selfie in this episode, and we are really gonna take a look at how we see ourselves. And I think it kind of ties into the theme of suicide prevention and a lot of other things in terms of what's really going on with us at any given moment, and how do we see ourselves versus what our true picture is without the filters. All right, so you know what? If you are driving, put on your seatbelt. If you are at home, find somewhere comfortable. And at any given point today, I just want you to say to yourself, hey, you matter. And thank you for showing up. And if you have an opportunity to give yourself a hug, you always have an opportunity to give yourself a hug. All right, so stay tuned. What's good, guys? How are you out there? Happy Monday, or whenever you're listening to this. And before we really get into it, I want to wish my baby bro, Coco, a very happy birthday, an amazing day for an amazing human. It's a beautiful thing, I think, to find family along your life, that you didn't necessarily grow up with, or that you weren't born into, but to find people along the way that really do become your family. And how the bond just kind of does its thing, and it takes form, and it becomes something that's truly important and vital to you. So, Coco, my bro, I appreciate you, and I hope you have a truly wonderful birthday, because you deserve it, if you listen to this sucker. But if not, I'll tell you anyway. But yes, happy birthday. And it's Virgo season, so happy birthday to all the Virgos out there. And I hope you guys learn to take a damn break and stop being so hard on yourself and others. What's good with you guys? How are you? How's your heart space? How's your head space? We're winding down, and we're just taking stock. And, this episode is crazy, because the other day I caught myself watching myself, right? Kind of from like my mind's eye, right? Just kind of watching me and what I was doing, and really taking stock in who I am as a person and just how I operate on any given day, the things I do, what I think about, how I operate through life. And I was like, yo, how do you see yourself, Isaiah? And I was actually sitting at my computer getting some writing done. And I thought about it. I was like, well, shit. Sometimes that leaves me. The reason why is because I'm so focused on the next thing I need to do or what I haven't done yet or what I wish I would have got accomplished and everything like that, that I don't take a moment to look at who I am. Like I don't take a selfie, right? And, you know, sometimes when we take selfies, actual selfies, you know, with our phones, we take so many because all the pictures we see the flaws, right? And we overlook the beauty, right? We see all the imperfections and we take so many until we find the perfect one. And it's like, within reason, yeah, sometimes you make a mistake on a picture or it just doesn't feel good or it's not your angle or whatever the case may be. But truth be told, is like all those photos are you. They're all elements of who you are. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's like, at what point do we accept who we are, you know, as a whole? And yes, there's always work to be done, right? There's always some new work, some new exploration, some new things to consider about who you are and who you want to be and, you know, what you've worked through, etc. And at the same time, it's like, but at what point do you see who you are? What point do you honor that and be like, this is who I am? And I like them. I like them a lot, right? And I think it's so important to just kind of take a moment, right? Take a selfie and really look at the picture. I want you guys to do that actually, because you know what's funny? It's funny because when there are sometimes, like, I'll see pictures of myself that I didn't take, and sometimes I look very different to me versus the picture that I may take, right? And I don't take a lot of selfies, truth be told. Yeah, I'm not big on selfies. But you know, if I do catch pictures that somebody else took, or like there's a group photo or something, I'm like, oh, this is how I look, you know? And the other day, like I said, I was sitting at my computer and I was just writing. And while I was writing, I was brainstorming, but the way my mind works is always doing something at the same time as doing something else. And at one point, I just kind of pictured myself at the computer writing. And then I pictured myself with a finished book, right? It's coming up on a year since I wrote my first book, and I'm working on my second one. And I pictured myself just as this person who just lives and he does his thing. And then I pictured myself, you know, in my downtime when I'm not writing, like, what else am I doing? Like, I go to the gym, or, you know, I go on these little errands, like I do my thing, or I spend time with people, and I picture myself in those moments. And it's so cool. And I think it's so interesting. And I think it's so important, right? Because sometimes we get so caught up in how everybody else sees us that we're not even looking at ourselves fully. Like, we're not getting the full picture of who we are, right? Because we have all these expectations, all these demands, and all the things that we should be that are coming from external places, that we don't take time to really process the internal of the person that we are, right? I was thinking about it. I was like, right now, and funny enough, my bro Coco, he said this to me, I think a year or two ago. He was like, the funny thing is no one has expectations of you. Like, you meet your own expectations. And I didn't realize that until he said it, right? Because we were having a conversation about something. I think we were actually talking about the book. And I was like, I got to finish this book. I got to do this. And my mom said it to me before too. She's like, you know, you do this on your own. Like the podcast, you do on your own. the book, you're doing everything you do on your own. I was like, man, and I thought about it. Like, yeah, I have listeners, right? As a content creator, you have listeners, you have this, you have that. But it's funny because had I not done these things, there wouldn't be the other. Like, I wouldn't have listeners. I wouldn't have this. And at this point, no one has been on me to make podcasts for the last 4 years. No one was on me. Most people didn't even know I was writing a book until I finished it. Like, no one knew about it, right? Like, my friends knew about it. They knew it, but it wasn't really a thing. It wasn't fully public knowledge until I made it that. And when you consider all of that, and you consider that work that goes into just being you, that's a lot. And it's worth seeing the full picture, not just something that's flat, like a flat image of who you are. Like, nah, you're 3-dimensional. You know what I'm saying? And we don't often do that. And when the conversation about self-love happens, like, this is a part of self-love. Because a lot of times people ask me on, TikTok, well, how do you love yourself? I need examples. And yada, yada. I'm like, it's practical. It's slowing down. Like, self-love, there is no magic pill, or there's no cure, right? There's no like this cure when it comes to learning or just loving yourself. Like, you don't wake up one day and love yourself, but you wake up every day and you show yourself some love. Does that make sense? It's a constant. And that's what we need to understand. I think people want to skip over the hard work and the hard work that comes with taking care of yourself, right? Because what they realize is hard. It's challenging. The reason why is because you don't always believe it. 1, 2, you were programmed to not believe it because it keeps you in a certain space through society. But, again, through your parents, but your parents learn through society as well. It's like a rinse, wash, repeat. It keeps things in a certain order. So when you understand that, and you recognize how many years you've had a record on repeat about what you're not, loving yourself is going to take a while. But you have to start and you have to keep going. And that's why I think it's so funny, because sometimes I'll recommend to people, I'm like, hey, tell yourself you love yourself. Like, say it, say it out loud or write it down on a piece of paper, or say to yourself, hey, you matter. You're important. And it makes people feel funny. Like, you can see people kind of shift, like their energy shifts, but also like physically sometimes they shift because they're like, that's weird. That's embarrassing. Like, that's stupid. That's cheesy. But these same people, I can honestly promise you, they'll probably easily call themselves a fuck up in their head or, again, to other people. Like, diminishing yourself should not be the norm. And I truly think if that was a reframing as a collective, we'd have a lot healthier relationships with each other. Relationships would be A1. Like, people would not be running to solitude and isolation. Instead, like, the sense of community, the sense of being with another person would not be as scary as it is, would not be as frightening as it is, right? Because while we're having a relationship with another person these days, we're also having a relationship with ourselves simultaneously. And if that relationship with yourself is not healthy, dude, it's coming from the source. So you can only pour what you have, right? If you got dirty water and you don't have a filter, you're going to have dirty water. You're just going to be wearing a smile on your face, but it's still going to be dirty water. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing applies to like showing up for yourself. Like, you pretending or you putting on a front, to other people. Like, after a while, that shit wears off, right? The filters wear off. Sometimes people, post selfies because they don't like how they look. They'll put filters over their selfies. I'm sorry, because they don't really like how they look. And they're like, oh yeah, this will make me look a little bit better. This will make me more appealing to other people, or I like how this looks. So therefore I think other people are going to like it too, versus just seeing the person, the human in that picture and being like, man, they're a badass, right? They're truly a badass. And I had to realize that for myself recently. It's like, yeah, I'm kind of a badass. And I've said it, but it's like, sometimes we say it and we don't always believe it in the moment. And that's okay. Because like I said, think about how long, how often, how frequently you've said negative things to yourself. And it took a while to be ingrained. Like, yeah, when it was said the first time, it was probably hit like a dagger and it hurt your feelings and it ruminated a little bit. But think about how much reinforcement it's had. And you honestly think saying good things to yourself, especially when you've had no point of reference, is going to just change everything? No. It's like going to the gym. Like, you don't go into the gym expecting to just lift 400 pounds, 300 pounds the first day. Right. And this is not a brag. So I think last week, the week before last, I went in, and it's been a few years since I've squat like 300, anything close to 300 pounds. I've kept it at like a lower weight just because I'm tired. I don't want to chance it. I got injuries, whatever. So messed around, squat 300. No, was it 295? And then I think the following week, I was like, let me just do 315. Yeah, last week, I was like, let me just try 315, see what it's about. Did it. It was pretty smooth. But my form wasn't perfect. So I was like, all right, I'll try it again in 2 days. Came back, tried it again. And then I added weight. But my most important thing was the form. I was like, I'm going to lift this weight, but my form is going to be A1. And it was. Right? Because I worked at it. Right? But my body is also conditioned at this point to lift heavy weight. I just didn't want to. But I could do it. And that's the same thing with self-love. The same thing applies. It's like, look, it's going to take work. It's going to take a lot of effort. But just focus on your form. Right? So when things do get heavy, you can lift it. But also, your form is correct. So you're not walking away with injuries. You know what I'm saying? You're actually building yourself properly. And even when we talk about, not to transition, but I think, even in suicide sometimes, it's like, I think that topic, it's becoming more of a table conversation, right? It's being brought to the table as it should be. Because I think a lot of times there's this misconception about what it looks like, what it feels like, why people do it, etc. And, a person that's in that space, they don't see themselves as somebody that truly matters, right? They don't see themselves as somebody that truly matters. And then, unfortunately, they use their eyes in their mind as other people's eyes. You get what I'm saying? So how they see themselves, they project that onto other people. And they think that, oh yeah, I don't see myself as I don't feel like I matter. So other people probably think and feel that way too. And there's layers to it, right? Mental health being a thing, a very important thing when it comes to this conversation. And then they see themselves, they see themselves a certain way, and then they use their perception of themselves and they assume that that's how everybody else sees them. Now, mind you, people that get to that point have been through a lot of shit, right? A lot of times have been through a lot. And the goal is to not necessarily bring attention or whatever. It's just to stop hurting, right? And I think it's just so important that we take care of ourselves, like I say, and take care of each other because, don't let somebody's selfie be the determinant, of what's really going on with them, because sometimes it's a filter, You get me? Sometimes it's a filter. And even with yourself, it's like, don't put over a filter over who you are just because you think that who you are is not enough. You get me? Like I said, if you were making a point to work to be a better person, you're already ahead of the game and you are already a beautiful human, right? Because you're doing the work. And it's not just doing the work and being like, oh yeah, I want to be different. It's like, nah, I want to be better. I want to feel better. I want to think better. I want to have better relationships that reinforce the work that I'm doing. That's all that is. You get me? The self-love you're doing is not to necessarily finally be somebody that's worth loving. Instead, it's finally recognizing that who I am was always meant to be loved properly. But the work I'm doing now is to just kind of move that debris, right? Especially if I've been, crawling through rubble, right? Life has kind of left me in shambles, and I'm just trying to crawl out of it. You're going to have some wounds you need to patch up, but it's still you. And the person that's climbing out of that space is like, yeah, they deserve to be taken care of. All right. So let's just consider so many things and all the things, right? If you're, like I said, if you're in a dark space, stay close to the people that feel like sunshine. That's an amazing song that I enjoy a lot. And it's just so important, right? It's so important to just recognize, where we are, who we're around, how we feel, right? And how we make ourselves feel, right? Start there. And like I said, if you're going to take a selfie, look at that person. Take your time with that person. Recognize that person. Value that person, because there's a level of brilliance you might be overlooking just because you want to get the perfect picture that you think everybody else is going to be okay with. Be okay with you. And if you don't trust how amazing you are, keep saying that shit to yourself until you believe it. Because up until this point, you were made to not trust who you are. So much so to the point that you started to believe it. Recognize that the opposite is always possible. All right? Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Coco, happy birthday, brother. Thank you for being a dope-ass human. Thank you for just always showing up in your community. Thank you for being a solid friend to me. I got your back, my guy. Till the end, bro. I love you, dude. And guys, whoever's in your life that means something to you, just let them know, hey, I love you. I appreciate you. Especially if it's yourself. All right? Take flight.